Steph Bohrer's book recommendation tag. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. It's your girl Erica, aka Paperback Girly, and today I'm going to be doing the new book recommendation tag on YouTube. I saw Steph Bohrer doing it. She created it, or like kind of brought it back. She was talking about in her video that she misses like old school YouTube, and honestly I miss old school YouTube period. But I have written down all of the questions on my phone, and they are a total of 15 questions, and it was actually very hard. I thought of this book tag as the opportunity to recommend books that I have truly loved, but as I started to go through the questions, I realized that a lot of the books that I wanted to recommend were the same book for each question. So it took a minute for me to really figure out which books I could choose for each question, and I'm actually pretty happy with the books that I've chosen today. I'm going to transfer all these books to my bed. I'm just gonna go ahead and get right into it. There's no need to get into the nitty-gritty. If you want to check out the OG video, the OG book tag, I will link Steph Bohrer's YouTube and also her video down below. I'm sure you know who she is. First question, what book do you tell people is your favorite book? And it took me a second to really think about it because it's not like I have like an all-time favorite book, but I chose The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, which is a YA paranormal fantasy romance. I really love this book. This is one of the books that really got me into reading and continued my passion for reading. This and another book that will be in this recommendation tag have kept that passion going. This is about Mara Dyer, which is a pseudonym for the real girl of the story. I don't know if we ever figure it out. I have to read the third book, we'll see. This is a trilogy about a girl who ends up finding out that she has some powers, and she has to figure out what those powers mean to her and her family, because it's deeper than just coming into it. It's something that's deep rooted into her lineage, and it's something that I'm excited to continue to figure out. There's also a spin-off series of this as well. This is The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hopkins, and I would say this is one of my favorite books of all time. The next question is, what book is your guilty pleasure? Whenever I watched the couple of videos that I saw on this book tag, and whenever the people answered this particular question, I saw a lot of people gravitating towards books that were like heavy smut. And whenever Steph explained it, she was talking about like a book that like you wouldn't necessarily tell somebody is your #1 favorite book in the world. I wanted to say Addicted to You. Whenever I started reading the Addicted series, I started to tell people about it, and I didn't know how to properly explain it without it coming across as like, what is this girl reading? Like, if you think about it, the basic premise of Addicted to You is not very conventional, let's say that. I also thought of another book, and that is Magnolia Parks. This I feel like is a guilty pleasure read. Like, the love story in this book is not a good love story. Like, I'm also reading Twisted Lies right now. It's just like such a toxic love story, okay? And I just feel like I ate this book up. Like, this book is 500 pages, and I think I read it in maybe like 2-3 days. I was just like rooting for the two main characters. I loved being in both BJ and Magnolia's head. I love the character of Tom England and the idea that there's someone better for Magnolia than BJ, and it's just like the angst that this book created within me and within the characters. I feel like this is a guilty pleasure read, and I'm very excited to continue on with this series. Even though like people either love it or hate it, and it's not for everyone, it's great. It's a roller coaster, but it's great, and it's my guilty pleasure. The next question is a book that everyone loved but you didn't, and remember this particular book for later on in this video. This Twisted Love is a book that I see everywhere, and it's also another book that I think either people love or hate it, but I feel like I see a lot of people fawning over this story, like absolutely doting over this book, and I do understand the appeal, and whenever I read it, I think I did enjoy my reading experience, but there were too many things that I feel like resonated negatively with me. I remember more negative things that I did not like about it than positive things that I did like about it, if that makes sense. And that is Twisted Love. I haven't even said it. Twisted Love by Anna Huang. I did not enjoy this book. I do not like that Alex is not Alex. He's Alex Volkov, and he's this like this just took a crazy turn. Like the ending, the twist at the end of the story, it was just such a wide left turn. It like turned into like a Steven Seagal movie at the very end. And I was not a fan. I was not a fan. Would I recommend it though to people? Yes, because I feel like I understand the appeal and I understand the hype. But remember this book for another question later on in the video. The next question is, what book did you read the fastest? And I feel like I kind of read fast in a way. I genuinely feel like I could read a book in 2 to 3 days. I feel like anybody really, if they take the time to do it, can read a book in a day. Realistically, I say I chose this book because I did eat it up in just one day. Granted, I had the entire day off of work and I was sick. There's a whole reading vlog on my channel, but this is the question that I used this book for out of all the questions that I could have possibly used this book for. But I read this book the fastest. I ate this thing up. Fell in love with this series. As I read on, I am starting to fall in love more with the other couples rather than being so infatuated with Lily and Lo. Like, they will always have a special place in my heart, but I feel like one of the other two couples might be my favorite in the series. We shall see. The next question is, what book deserves more hype? And I love this book that I'm about to show you. Please don't be intimidated by the size, because in this particular edition there's 2 books in one. That is A Love Letter to Whiskey. I don't really ever hear anybody talking about this book. I've only ever heard Larry from Larry Reads rave about this book. A Love Letter to Whiskey is probably one of my favorite books of all time. I am actually pleasantly surprised by how this book has just blown me away. Love Whiskey is also the second part of this book. So A Love Letter to Whiskey is the OG book, and then this is like the 5th anniversary edition, and she wrote like almost like a part 2, I guess. And Love Whiskey is Jamie's reply to B, because B wrote A Love Letter to Whiskey. It's just so poetic and so beautiful, and it's like constant wrong person, right time, or right person, wrong time. It is phenomenal. It is absolutely a phenomenal book, and I will rave about this. I will go to war for this book until I don't know when. I don't know until I have reason otherwise not to. So the next question is a book you love that is going to or has become a movie or TV show. So that has an adaptation. And I chose Beautiful Disaster for this. Although there's a lot of books on my shelves that have adaptations or are going to become adaptations, this particular book has such a special place in my heart. This book got me into new adult reading. I have an entire reading blog that I'm hoping will be coming out very soon. I'm editing it as we speak. And this author, she paved the way for new adult writing and for authors to feel comfortable writing about basically this age group. It is going to be a movie with Dylan Sprouse. Dylan Sprouse is going to be Travis Maddox. I'm not sure how I feel about that because I didn't initially think of him as Travis Maddox, but I'm here for it. I'm all here for it. Probably seen this gorgeous cover in your local barns. This is about Abby Abernathy. She goes to college with best friend America, and America's dating Shepley, who is cousins with Travis. And Travis is this like bad boy, this underground fighting circle, and Travis is like the top dog, like he beats everyone up. Abby is like, I'm not gonna fall for him. He thinks he can have every girl he wants, and there's a lot of girls that are like fawning over him as well. They strike up a bet. Abby ends up losing the bet. They end up having to move in together as a result of the bet. The rest is history, okay? She ends up falling a little bit for Travis's charm. Also, as I reread this book, I realized that my tastes have changed. Like 13, 14-year-old me ate this up, okay? 13, 14-year-old me was like, oh my god, that's love, like yes. But I will say this is more of another toxic romance. Like I don't think that Travis and Abby are the best for each other, but I think that they know that, and I think that's the point of the book. They are a beautiful disaster. Okay, they are a beautiful disaster for sure. It's just like you want the two characters to figure it out. You want to root for them. You want to just be like, what, get your shit together. Get your shit together. I'm so excited for this book to become a movie, and it's coming out April 12th, which is 4 days before my birthday. Oh wait, no, 6 days before my birthday. I can't do math. I'm very excited for that. April 12th. The next question is the book that you've reread the most. And honestly, I haven't gotten around to rereading books yet. A lot of the books that I've read, they're all brand new for me. So I don't think I'm in that point in my bookish journey. I think that maybe in a year from now, that would be a great question to ask me. I think that I have a ton of books on my mind that I want to reread, but I just haven't gotten there yet. So I did choose 2 books that I've already talked about, and that is Beautiful Disaster and The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, because these are the only 2 books that I have read more than 3 times. The next question is a recommendation of a book from a genre that you don't typically read, and I have 2. A Court of Thorns and Roses, which I literally just did a reading vlog on. It's honestly popping off. So if you are from my ACOTAR video / book shopping with my boyfriend video, hello. It is so great to have you in my little corner of the internet, and I'm happy you decided to stick around. But that is ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. This is the only other book besides Beautiful Disaster that I have annotated, and I absolutely adore this book with the entire entity of my being. It surprised me so much. The romance in this book drew me in. Being able to escape into this fantasy world was also beautiful to me. Like, gave me everything I could have possibly imagined. This is an enemies to lovers sort of pen pal romance in a way. So Heart and Mercy are 2 people living in this world. It's kind of similar to Earth. Then they have like this portal that they can go to Tanria, which is like the fantasy world. And they have these beings called dredges, which remind me of little ghost thingies from Harry Potter. I always forget what they're called from Harry Potter. Mercy is an undertaker. Heart is a marshal, so he like takes down the dredges and like bad things in this fantasy world. They don't really like each other. They are in like a mutual business with each other because Heart brings the dredges to Mercy so that she can cure them and send them off to the underworld. One day, Heart writes a letter and addresses it anonymously to literally no one, just wants to get some things off his chest. The letter ends up getting in Mercy's hand. So Mercy reads this, connects with the letter, and then writes back also anonymously to whoever this person is, and it ends up back in Heart's hands. Meanwhile, they're also seeing each other in their everyday lives as they continue on with their business and their work, whatever, right? And so it's just this like very cute story, and it's also this like fantasy story as well, where we're getting a glimpse of like the other world, Tanria. Also, we learn so much about the characters. The character development in this book is insane. I love Heart with the whole heart of me. So yeah, The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy and ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, are 2 books from genres that I don't typically read that I would recommend with my entire soul. The next question is a book that deserves all the hype it gets, and I had a couple ideas for this question, but I'm gonna go ahead and say Icebreaker because I've seen some people either love or hate it, and I want to be one that says I love it. The friendships in this group, the writing devices in this book, the potential for future books and like of a series. Anastasia is a competitive figure skater. Nate is the captain of the hockey team. There's something that happens to like their ice rinks where they have to share a single rink instead of having 2 rinks that the school had provided. And so there's like a little bit of like forced proximity. It's a bit of like an enemies to friends to lovers. Like they have to work together on something, so even more forced proximity. There is more to this book than just romance though. I love the communication between the 2 characters in this book. I didn't realize how much I loved healthy communication in books and I didn't even know what it looked like in books until I read this, and it opened my eyes how much I do actually like and enjoy characters that I can just say what they mean and mean what they say. But also it talks a lot about and discusses like body image, body dysmorphia, eating disorders. Anastasia deals a lot with her body image because as a figure skater she's expected to look a certain way. I feel like this book is just very complex, very beautiful, and it's also like perfect amount of spice, perfect amount of friendship, perfect amount of like banter, fun, exciting moments, like character development. It's just a great book. So Icebreaker, I want to be the one to say that the hype is real on this book. The next question is the book that you recommend the most to others, and I just thought recently how I have been recommending 2 books to people very heavily. And the first one is The Deal. Even though I did not like this book, I feel like this is a good book to recommend others who are just trying to get into reading. It's not too heavy. It definitely gives like Wattpad vibes, which is I think why I didn't really like it. It definitely reads a little bit young in my own opinion, but I do know that every time I recommend this book people like it. period. It's just, that's why it's a book talk book. It's why it has so much hype. Like, The Deal is just a good book to recommend to people just like new to reading. Period. And that's not like a diss, it just gives the vibes. Another book though that I 5-star read, would die for, and like on the complete opposite spectrum of The Deal, is Indigo Ridge. Indigo Ridge is an amazing book. There's so much in this book. As the first book of the series, in my own opinion, there's no other book in the series that compares to it. Indigo Ridge is about Winslow and Griffin. Winslow is basically like the new sheriff in town, and I know that sounds cliche, but she literally is like the new sheriff in town, and it's the town that her parents grew up in, and like her grandparents and stuff, but like she didn't really grow up in this town, and so it's like a small town. She's definitely like an outsider coming into a small town. Griffin, he is one of the older brothers of 4, I believe, or 4 or 5 in the Griffin, or no, the Edens family, which is like the big family of the town. But what I love most about this book is that it's so complex. There's so many different things in this book. There's a beautiful romance budding in this book. It sets up a beautiful premise for the Eden series in general. You meet all the characters. It sets up the cozy, quaint, small town that they live in. There's suspense in this book. Like, there's this murder mystery going on. The town doesn't think it's a murder mystery, but it really is truly a murder mystery. Packs a punch. Okay, I rated this 5 stars. I ate this book up. I could also say that this is another book that I read very fast. I think I read this in like 2 days. Loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. What book has your favorite characters is the next question, and this one took me a minute to figure out. I wanted to step outside the box and I wanted to think deeper on a book that had characters that I really did enjoy reading about and thought I connected to, and that made me think about the Atlas 6. I want to read the republished version, or like the traditionally published version, because I've heard it's a little bit different, but I loved the Atlas 6 and I liked a lot of the characters in the book. I've liked each of the characters had little bits and pieces that I felt like I resonated with. It made this like beautiful collective whole that just like drew me in. This is about a group of 6 young adults who are selected to go into the Alexandrian Society. They basically are like tasked to protect Alexandrian library of all of the historical documents of magic and all of the history of the world. They start to learn each other's strengths and weaknesses and how they could all possibly come together to protect something that is highly sought after and highly coveted. And there is a lot of different elements in this book that I feel like add pizzazz and storytelling. It's something that's like lasting. It's everlasting. It like resonated with me and it stayed with me long after I read it. The next question, what book do you wish you could live in? And this one was interesting. I never really had taken a second to think, okay, what book do I think I could actually live myself? I did end up deciding to choose Better Than Fiction by Alexa Martin. This book actually pleasantly surprised me. I love this book so much. I think I rated it like 4.5 stars. This is about a girl that she ends up inheriting this like bookstore. She's not really like a bookish girl, but she ends up inheriting a bookstore, and one day a famous romance writer comes into town for like their book club that they have at the bookstore, and he ends up deciding that he's going to stay in their little small town. I think it's in Colorado? Denver, yeah. So he ends up deciding to stay in their little small town and ends up asking Drew, who's the girl, to like show him around for his next book, and they end up like sparking up a little romance, and it's just super cute. I would say I wanted to live in it because like I would love to inherit a bookstore. I would love to have my own little bookstore. I feel like this gave such cozy vibes. Earlier I said, remember the question. The next question is a book you thought you would hate but you ended up loving, and I just finished this the other day. Twisted Hate. I absolutely despised Twisted Love, and that's so funny because I love Twisted Hate but I hated Twisted Love. I absolutely fell in love with Twisted Hate. I read this in like 2-3 days. It's like a 500-page book. Probably one of my favorite book couples of all time. I think they are such a powerhouse. The hype is real on this book. I could recommend this book for every single question that I've read. This book was great. I did not like the miscommunication at the end of the book, and I feel like I don't like the miscommunication till period. I know a lot of people don't. I just feel like we're adults. adults. We don't have time for miscommunication. Just use your words. I genuinely felt like they were like true enemies to lovers. Like I could tell that they actually just like were giving each other shit. It wasn't like they actually like hated each other. At the end of the day, they knew and they were still connected by Ava, who is Jules' best friend and Josh's little sister. And I feel like because I understood that they already like knew each other for a really long time through their connection with Ava, that like I actually believed their love story. So I have 2 more questions left. The next question is a book that made you cry, and I chose The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This is one of the first books that I read 5 stars whenever I started picking reading back up again, and I know that people either love or hate this book, or they're not sure what to think about this book and whether or not they want to read it. I understand why. This book starts off slow. I didn't really get it. I was like, what am I reading? I don't care. But it definitely picks up. Like whenever the 2 storylines converge, and it's not even necessarily like 2 storylines, but whenever you finally understand what's like going on in this book and what's going on with Addie LaRue, oh my goodness gracious me. This is a book that I cannot wait to reread actually. I really want to reread this book. It's been a couple years. I want to know if it still hits the same. The last question for this book recommendation tag is a book that you wish you could read for the first time. And again, I had a bit of trouble trying to pick the book for this question. But honestly, I really wish I could read Regretting You again for the first time. I probably will be able to reread this in the future. This is just so fresh in my mind, and I genuinely feel like I could never reread it because I just would remember everything. Like, I've never read a book like this. The plot twist in this story, the storyline in general, like the plot in general is so unique. I've never read anything like it, and I know I keep saying that, but hey, let's get all these books together. Get them all together. So many of them. Oh my god. So there's more on my bed, but I'm not even going to try. These are all of the books that I would recommend to you and that I have recommended to you today in today's tag. I appreciate Steph for making this video and this video idea. I feel like it's just fun to be able to like see a video tag or like a video idea and be able to like emulate it. Sometimes it's hard to come up with different ideas, or sometimes you just want to feel connected to the community. So I definitely feel a lot more connected to the community now. It's super fun to just see all these videos popping up on my feed, and I hope that you enjoyed this particular one. I tried to add a bunch of different types of books for maybe different types of viewers. I have some YA in here, I have some fantasy, I have a ton of romance. Okay, I cannot get away from that romance kick. With that being said, I really hope that you enjoyed today's video, and I will catch you guys soon in my next one. It's your girl PaperbackGirly, and I'm out.